welcome to the pilot of Hook and Needle History. I'm your host, Teddy.
And I'm also your host, Rachel.
And every other week we bring you a series based on our interest in history, knitting, crochet, history of knitting and crochet, pop culture, and everything in between. So our store is located in Avon by the Sea. We opened last year in November, so this is sort of like a nice launch for us, 1 year out. And we're really excited to start this little journey, and you're along on the journey with us.
Yes, super fun. I'm really excited to be a part of this journey.
Absolutely. Yeah, so how did you get into crochet, Rach?
So I started after college, after undergrad. I found myself having a lot of time on my hands, and I don't actually remember what prompted my initial interest in it. I remember asking my mom if she knew how to crochet, because her grandmother, so my great grandmother, crocheted a bunch. We actually still have some of her things that she made in our house, and so she had showed my mom some stuff, and so I just asked her to show me, and it was kind of just your basic stitches, whatever. And the way that my mom showed me, though, she held the hook differently than I do, so I didn't get it at first. I'm like,
right.
I can't do this. But then once I switched it up a little bit, it just kind of clicked in my brain. I'm like, wow, this is really cool. I'm doing it. It's fun. I'm creating something, and I just loved kind of the just doing the motions. And then once I got to the point where I could create something, I'm like, wow, this is really fun. And then I just kind of became a little obsessed with it, and just kind of went from there. And so I've been crocheting now for 6.5 years, and I think just like a lot of other people during the whole lockdown period, I kind of just progressed my my crocheting stuff. I was venturing out into more sweaters and things like that, because at that point I was really just doing scarves and hats and little things, but again, had a lot of time on my hands, so I'm like, let me expand on this. And then at that point, I started wearing sweaters and things, and people are people want to see what you're doing. And so I kind of started developing it even more, and I love it now. And then I started sort of knitting, so I'm a little bit into knitting now, which is great.
Well, it's wonderful to have you teaching the crochet classes and lessons at the store. And yeah, I would love to get into crochet at some point, but I still feel like since I'm an advanced beginner, intermediate knitter, it's a lot to take on if you're doing both. But it's nice to learn both skills, because you do see sometimes with knitting projects, obviously some finishing work with crochet, an edge or a ribbing on that is really nice to have. So I want to add that to my repertoire.
Yes, we'll get you on in our 101 crocheting class, which is a lot of fun, because you can really do a lot when you know both. It's great. Yeah.
So basically, after I was teaching at Monmouth University in West Long Branch, New Jersey, online during COVID, I wanted to kind of just try a little bit of knitting, and obviously I was taught by Rhonda, the owner of Grace Purl, who also happens to be my mother. So I had a wonderful teacher, and the philosophy too that we have at Grace Purl at the store that I've sort of acquired too is that you can add scrap yarn in, you can add different weights in, different textures, big on texture of yarn, and make something totally fun and new for yourself. So it's really fun to see my mom come up with a lot of different patterns and things, especially using the knit cloth yarn. But right now I'm doing this Millie sweater with the Silver Lady yarn from Ba Yarn, which is a fingering weight, and I'm really enjoying that. It's really obviously a little bit more difficult to work with the fingering yarn, but I'm really happy with how it's coming out. So that'll be a little bit more of a lighter weight garment that I want to wear later, late winter and spring. So it's just something I wanted to start. But my first ever project, I worked on a Lang hat, Lang Cloud, and that super retro colorway, and so you can really see that yarn, and it's obviously self-striping, so you could really play with the fun colors. But yeah, I think also during COVID it was a nice way to kind of relieve stress, and I think just generally anytime, not even during a pandemic, knitting, crafting, has become so prevalent now with a lot of younger people and become very modern. So it's a big stress reliever for people. But it's very ironic too that we both have master's degrees in history, which, you know, you don't really find people in the wild with just master's degrees. So do you want to explain how we met?
Yeah, so
that was one of our questions on
yes,
Instagram.
one of the questions was how we met. We met through a mutual friend, our friend Krista Dalmazio. Shout out. She's amazing. We'll probably have her on the show to talk about all things music, because she's a fantastic musician who also crochets, so we'll have some fun with her. She's great. But so we met through her. I'd known her since I was a small child, and actually she had told me a couple times, I think last year, she's like, you gotta meet my friend Teddy, she's great, you guys have a lot in common, she's super cool. And so she kept saying that, but it never really happened until we went out to dinner for her birthday back in February. And we finally met, and I was like, yeah, she's pretty cool. And then I found out like how much like we had in common, and then we hung out with Krista a few other times, and yeah, we just kind of clicked, because we have so much in common. And finding out that we both had master's degrees in history, a little bit different history, but you know, still history is really cool. And when I found, and Krista had also told me that, you know, you and your mom had opened up a yarn store. I'm like, that's only 15 minutes away from my house. I'm like, that's going to be really dangerous. So I gotta go and support, and yeah, and now I'm working here, which is kind of cool. You know,
absolutely. Yeah, and the rest was literally history.
Literally history. That's why we're here now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. How did we get here now, though?
Oh
Why
my goodness. Just add it to the list of things and ideas.
Yeah. Was it my idea initially? I think I came up to you
and was like, hey, I want to do a podcast or some type of bloggy kind of entity with history involved. Yes. And well, it's sort of interesting as well, because throughout my career as a graduate student at Monmouth, which I went on to also teach at Monmouth during COVID, a lot of my interest in history was geared towards textile history and environmental history of the early modern Mediterranean. So that's definitely going to be featured in a lot of our content for sure. A lot of things that, you know, like the public wouldn't necessarily be taught, I guess, because when you're in the public, I feel like history is like limited to like the History Channel, or maybe, you know, a lot of like biographical kind of content. But it's really nice that we have the academic background and we're able to also share that with a lot of people, and make it also very accessible. But yeah, I think it was like a fusion of our ideas. Probably like the foundation of it was probably our love for Outlander. Honestly, which everything, it really ends up working out so interestingly and like full circle. But yeah, so my interest in grad school was textile history, mixed with a little bit of fusion of environmental history in the early modern Mediterranean. So I think that'll be a kind of interesting touchstone of like sprinkling in some spice into our history content. But yeah, I think it's fascinating that we're able to like fuse together all of our loves into one place and also share it with other people. So
which is kind of what where my brain went when I was thinking about doing something like this, because I was teaching at one point. I wasn't teaching history, but I was teaching, it was middle school, and it was good, it was fun, you know, it wasn't quite where I wanted to be, but then I knew I wanted to use my history degree somehow, but I wanted to do it in like a fun, creative way. And I knew I did not want to go back into like higher education, academia, like become a professor in a college. Like I don't think that was
more school.
I don't want more school. I don't want more school. But I wanted to, you know, utilize my degree, and because we do have that, you know, we spent a lot of time and energy and studying and all that stuff. So I want to use it, but I also love, you know, doing it in a fun way. And because of like this whole crocheting thing that I've been doing, it's really kind of taking off, and been a really kind of big part of my life recently in the last couple of years, so I wanted a place to like do it all, kind of just talk about it all, and so also have like a place where we can have like an education, you know, aspect of this, where we can like tell people about things. And for me, I studied for my master's degree. I did medieval history, and I didn't really focus on like you did like the whole textile thing, but so with medieval history, it's like there's still so much to incorporate in that. So yeah, with this whole like podcast idea, I'm like, I love watching and listening to people talk about things that I love. So I can't, we can do it too, and kind of incorporate, everything that we love doing. So that's kind of where this all came from, and just wanting to bring it to people and do it. And I think it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's finally happening, which is, who knew we'd be here? Yeah. It's so interesting. After teaching, I was like, okay, I'm gonna step back from school for a bit and just like the school setting. Because I never really gave myself a break either. Well, obviously both of us did undergrad history and then master's history. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to switch gears. And then we opened the store during COVID. And here we are. So yeah, it's a really wonderful, I think, addition to Grace and Purl. And it's really nice that it'll be so accessible being on the internet. So we hope that you all enjoy it, and I think we'll have a lot of really fun, varied topics too, because we also love to incorporate like a lot of obviously books and popular reads, and also a lot of like the TV shows that are happening right now. I know I'm very excited for Yellowstone tonight, and I almost brought my cowboy hat to wear as a prop. But yeah, I'm excited for that. I am not so excited for Outlander, but we can discuss that another time.
We can have a whole thing about Outlander, because honestly, so I studied my master's degree over in Scotland. I went to the University of Glasgow, and I've been like, I love the UK. Like when I studied, I kind of primarily focused on like British history. Specifically, I love Scotland, and it's, obviously a beautiful part of the world. The culture's great, the history's so fun. And so when Outlander first came out, I was in undergrad, and I was like, oh my gosh, time traveling in Scotland, history, like, it looks beautiful. It was kind of right up my alley, and I'm like, I gotta get into it. So I actually read the book before the first season came out, and stuck with it up until a certain point. But so the fact that it kind of that encompassed a lot of I think maybe your interests as well, but my interests for sure. And we're we want to incorporate kind of the different texture and textiles that are in the show, and also talk about the history of it, which would be really cool. But yeah, in terms of, there's also some other interesting historic shows that we can have a whole series on, of either like, and not even, talking about like the costumes or anything like that, but just like the history of it. We've got some things that we want to talk about there.
Yeah, lots planned. Thumbs up if you love Last Kingdom, because that's
I was going to talk
one
about
of our
too.
best, one of our favorites.
Tremendous show. Wonderful.
So yeah, I mean, we can just go on and on about those, but I think it'll be really cool. Also, thumbs up or comment if you want us to do some sort of Outlander little mini series on hook and needle history, because I think there's so many different plot lines. I think that could be kind of cool to look at from different perspectives. But I have done a lot of work in grad school and post-grad sort of research on the Mediterranean and the different interactions between like the power players and the different countries trading at the time. So it's sort of interesting to look at trade and also what was in fashion at certain times and different time periods. So I think that'll be really fascinating to look at.
I think the thing with history is that there's obviously so much of it, and what's so cool and kind of why I love history so much is that it's just a story of humanity, of us, and where we came from, the trajectory of where we're going, and there's just so much to cover that that's why I wanted to go into graduate school and kind of narrow it down. But even narrowing it down to medieval history, that's still a 1,000-year period. Sure. There's so much to cover in that. That's why I kind of like the early Middle Ages. So like the Last Kingdom time period is great, but and so because we have different interests in like the time period, there's so much ground to cover there. Then we can talk about any other time period, because I actually almost decided to study ancient history for my master's degree. I was super into ancient history, which I still am. I love it.
Oh yeah.
So that's the thing. It's like if you love history, just there's so much and you love it all.
Yeah.
So really, we don't have to limit ourselves to really anything, which is nice. So there's lots of cool things. We're also drinking tea.
Yes.
What tea
Always
are you drinking?
Tea. So mine is the green ginger from Tazo.
Yes.
And I'm really liking that because I love, obviously, anything with caffeine. First of all, I'm a giant coffee drinker, so thumbs up and comment what types of coffee you love. However, tea is always good all day long, 24/7. This one's nice. It has the ginger, so it has like a little bit of that spicy kind of tang to it, which I'm really enjoying. And of course, we have our favorite mugs. And what are you drinking?
I'm drinking a cherry blossom tea by, is that Harney and Sons?
Yes.
Is that Harney and Sons?
Comes in a cute little tin.
Cute tin. So it's cherry blossom. It's really nice. I actually was not a big tea drinker for most of my life up until very recently. I actually hated tea when I was younger. I tried to drink it and it was gross. It
just tastes like herbs.
I mean, it's just I didn't understand the appeal, and I didn't drink coffee. I don't drink coffee. I think I've had like a sip of coffee. Yeah. So it was never really my thing, and even when I was in Scotland, I did not drink tea.
You drank whiskey instead.
I drank whiskey instead, that's true. Which is a whole other conversation. But I was not a big tea drinker until until COVID, and I really like researched the health benefits of it. I'm like, I really should like force myself to drink tea. So, but now I love tea. I've kind of acquired that taste, and I'm still experimenting with things that I like. So we'll kind of go into different teas that we come across and like, and I love green tea. Like green tea is
the cherry blossom is a green tea.
It is a green tea. Yeah. I'm venturing more into black teas now, which has more of the caffeine in it, which I'm not used to because I'm not a big caffeine drinker. But it's so good. Tea's so good for you.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So we just got this really awesome tea brand in Big Heart Tea Co. Thank you, Rach, for the plug. And we got them in the box sets as well as like the little samplers. So we're gonna definitely try those out on the podcast also, but they are available in store for purchase, of course. So thumbs up and comment if you want us to sample those. But yeah, we are big tea drinkers, and it's very funny too because tea has a history. Everything has a history.
Everything. We can talk about literally the history of anything.
And so shout out to Marianne Rett, Dr. Marianne Rett, as part of the Department of History and Anthropology at Monmouth. Because one of the things that I will always carry with me is when she says to her students, history is a collection of memories.
Oh, that's great.
Because every person is going to come away with the past, present, and future as something different from a different perspective, and past, present, and future is always connected, and that's something I also learned from my mentor, Ken Campbell, Dr. Ken Campbell from Monmouth. So he actually, Ken Campbell, is the British historian at Monmouth, and so it's very interesting too. I want to bring in a little bit more of like the contemporary kind of pop culture-y stuff too, because I was his grad assistant for his book about the Beatles. So like we can really definitely get some cool topics in there. So please comment down below any suggestions, anything you want to see. I think that would be really fun to interact with everybody watching. And supporting us, of course. But anyway, what are you working on right now for
projects?
Yes,
that's also a thing we'll be talking about. Different things that we're working on. I'm actually working on a knitting project, which is I've been knitting a lot in the recent months. Although I've been crocheting a lot too. I've been doing a lot of everything. So I'm doing a shawl right now, and it's partway through a row right now, but it's the Ozetta's shawl, winter tails shawl, and I got the yarn from when we went to the New Jersey Sheep and Wool, what do you call it, festival? Yeah.
Extravaganza.
There was so much.
Adventure.
It was overwhelming how much yarn there was. It was a lot of fun. We can talk
Too
about
much
that.
fun.
It was so much fun. And so the yarn I got there was it's Mabel's Cables. She was a really wonderful lady who had some really gorgeous yarn, and I knew I wanted to like dive in with her colorways. So
it's killing me.
it's beautiful. This one is Victorian Rose. I actually don't know if I have I do. The purple is Rambling Rose, and it's a nice purple, and this is like just a beautiful green and purple colorway. I'm a big green. In a DK, yeah. So I didn't want to do anything like too lightweight, because I'm not used to working with lighter weight stuff, but DKs are good.
Yeah.
So I'm doing like a color blocking where I did 2 skeins of the Rambling Rose, and then I'm going to finish it out with the Victorian Rose, and it's great. And as a beginner knitter, this pattern is super easy to follow. The increases are super easy. The edging is really nice because you've got like, it's just, I don't even know how to describe it because I'm so new at knitting.
I think it was like an I-cord
edge?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a really beautiful edge, and it's really nice, and I think it'll be a great little piece to wear in the wintertime when it gets a lot colder. So this is what I'm working on. I'd say I'm like a little over halfway through. I've been working on it since like the end of August, early September. So this is kind of like my ongoing project that I'm not really giving myself a set deadline where I want to finish it by. It's just whenever I feel like picking it up and doing a few rows. So, but I'm very anxious to get to this color. So
good.
I'm almost there.
It's gorgeous.
It's a really nice color. So yeah, that's my current project.
I love it.
My current knitting project, and then I've got some, because Christmas is coming up, I've got some Christmas gifts ideas that I'm gonna start working on as well.
And those would be mostly crochet.
Mostly crochet gifts, yeah. But I'm expanding my knitting stuff, so maybe some knitting gifts, but mostly crochet. Yeah. And you're working on?
So yes, working on the Millie. I've got a whole bunch of. It's very funny because owning a yarn store, having a small business, I'm like, obviously I want to knit in my spare time, but there's not much of that. But that's okay. It's such a stress reliever that I look forward to leaving the yarn shop and then going and knitting and going home and reading or knitting and watching Netflix. But this Millie, I am not able to watch TV and knit.
It's a bit more complicated of a pattern.
I'm doing the make one rights and make one lefts, and with that you really need to focus. And also it's very funny too because I feel like there's so many amazing knitters out there, and it's kind of nice and maybe refreshing for people watching too. We are, I would say, beginner knitters.
Yes, very beginner.
But you don't always see people on YouTube or on social media who are beginners and are putting themselves out there. So it's I think we're connecting with a larger community.
It'll be fun to kind of show all of our like troubles that we're having too. Like had to pull out rows. I've got a hole in my shawl I have to fix. Like there's a lot of things. Or don't fix. I might not because I don't know how yet, but I also I might not want to. But so like because we are so new and we're the things that we're struggling with pattern wise or or the things that we're succeeding at. Just kind of share it all and it's fun.
And like nothing's going to be perfect. It's a hand knit. Cynthia, who works here as well, has been knitting for over 50 years and master knitter. She also makes mistakes. So it's the human error, and that is what is special about it too. But what else I'm working on or going to be working on in the very near future, we do have the Wave of Change class coming up, which is a beautiful pattern for a pullover and jacket by Denise Bayron, Bayron Handmade. If you look her up, her patterns are absolutely stunning, super modern. This is one of the samples that we have in store. Shout out to Christina, Chelsea Yarns. I have to give this back to her. But this is the jacket version, and it has those like beautiful sort of bumpy pearl rows in there. This was knit up with a duet and zebra, so it's a bulky weight. So I'm going to do mine in the Chelsea Fireside with a rose gold zebra, and I can put in a little snapshot of that in the video too. And then I want to add in that Kremke Stellaris yarn that has like a beautiful subtle sparkle. It's very funny because I feel like I am a modern maximalist aesthetic because I love all the neutrals, really muted tones, but then I also really love like the look of knit collage where you can put every color together and it's still going to look absolutely stunning and modern in a similar way. So I just like having a little bit of that variety in my
and I think
interest.
It's gonna be cool to kind of see, you know, our different knitting and crocheting like styles and kind of what we gravitate towards color wise, because I gravitate a lot towards neutrals and greens. I'm a big green fan. I love green, and so I love those neutrals, and I'm generally not a very sparkly person. I don't really go towards the shimmery and the sparkly. So, but definitely being in a store like this and having all of these different like examples of what you can do with that kind of stuff, it's really kind of broadened my I think horizons when it comes to colors and different textures and things, because I also like to think of myself as more of a minimalist or aspiring minimalist. I'm always kind of back and forth of wanting to just be like strict minimalist, but so like the whole like earth tones, browns, grays, cream colors, like if I had a whole wardrobe just of that, I would be happy, but then I also want to make something with like
super bright,
crazy color. So it's like that's what's so fun about creating and doing this kind of hobby, is that you can really do whatever you want, and it's all great because it's what you want to do in that time. And so I'm also going to do the Wave of Change. It's going to be, I think, the most challenging knitting project I've done to date.
It's going to get you.
It's going to get me a little bit.
Apparently they're easy.
Apparently.
So
we'll see. I'm going to do the pullover version as well in the Chelsea Yarns color Copper Canyon with the duet. What was it? Eucalyptus Energy. So I'm
so good.
I'm combining those colors, which is, I think, gonna look really nice. They are more my colors of like some greens and browns and copper as the.
But then you have like that nice pop of like jade in there too with the Copper Canyon.
It's a really beautiful color.
We can also add some photos in there in the video. But anyway, speaking of sparkle, we are going to get a new update of our Grace and Purl exclusive color from Chelsea, which is really fun. That is coming next week, hopefully. Anyway, I wanted to like switch gears slightly, talk about that shawl you're making, because I feel like too there's such an opportunity now with how modern knitting has become to become like a a very accessible wearable shawl option, you know, more of like that wrap. But I think next week we're going to explore that a little bit, the history of the shawl trade. There's really so much to discuss.
There's
very
so
exciting.
much to talk about, which is great. I think making something like a shawl is really cool, because I generally wouldn't think to like actually wear one around, like out and doing whatever, but you see how they're so modern now, and but even like, because I love history and I love antiques, I love anything old, and you know, like I love all the old looks that, you know, have been in the past, and bringing it into the future and having it be like a good mix of old and new, and functional, and like being able to wear these things that you're making and have them be functional as well. So lots of fun stuff.
Lots of fun stuff coming. I'm really excited. Thank you for everyone for tuning in and watching us and supporting us. Please subscribe to our channel. We have a lot of fun videos coming and just a lot of content. I feel like even every day in the store is a new exciting day, because we are always getting new things in. We're going to do a lot of holiday giveaways coming up. Lots of new classes, things like that. And of course, if you are ever, this was one of our questions, I did answer it on Instagram, but anyone else interested in taking a beginner knitting course, class, or crochet class in the store, please email us at graceandpurl@gmail.com, and we will absolutely set something up on your schedule. But anyway, Small Business Saturday, we do have some really awesome ready-made pop-ups featuring
me. So I have a little side crochet business. I don't know if I want to call it a business yet because it's been in the works for a while. It's more of a hustle. It's called Little Way Creations, and I do have an Instagram for it. It's very small. I'm trying to do better with that, but it's a little crochet business that I did start last year, around this time last year. It took me a long time to like officially do it, and yeah, it's a nice little thing that I'm doing. I'm gonna have a little pop-up here at the store with ready-made things. We'll make good gifts, small little crochet things, and yeah, it's been fun. I think it'd be cool to kind of go into like kind of that aspect of what I'm doing with crocheting and like where the name comes from, how I started it, what I want to do. So if you're interested in that little crochet business, let me know and I can kind of expand on that a little bit. But yeah, Small Business Saturday, come check it out.
Yep.
It'll be fun.
Walk off all the food you ate.
Yes, all that turkey.
Yes, so Rachel will be here with her little table. And I don't want to say little table because she's an amazing crocheter, making all those really cool shrugs that have been in style and apparently came back from Y2K. Yes, very cool. And then we'll also have Anchor Rose knits, really beautiful hand knit hats, Malabrigo hats. She will be here on Small Business Saturday as well. So lots going on. And then if you spend $50 in store with us, you get a gift with purchase. So that's always fun.
Yes.
But anyway, we are so happy to finally launch our dream podcast pilot.
We're doing it.
Yes.
We're doing it.
So please share with your friends, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Yay. Thanks for watching.
Bye, everybody.